in today's video we're going to talk about, is Georgia good for digital nomads, and is it somewhere that you should consider if you are thinking about becoming or are a digital nomad. So let's talk about some things that I really like about Georgia that would make me say yes to that question. Georgia is beautiful. This country, if you go north, you go to the mountains, you go to the Caucasus, I never can say it. You go to the mountains, and then when you come to Tbilisi, you're in the city. So it has nature and city. So it's almost like the perfect blend of both. If you are a city person, but yet you still crave going into nature, you can get there super easy. I mean, you can take a Mashuka. It costs you maybe 50 lari, which is, I'll put down below, I can't remember. And then you're there in 6 hours, or you have your own car. And you can buy a car here for relatively inexpensive. So overall, getting out of the city is pretty easy, and there's 3 or 4 bus stations that you can go north, south, east, or west. So it is like the central hub. But yeah, Georgia is such a small country, it is so easy to get around. Okay, there's a lot to be said about transportation, but to go to the places that you're probably gonna wanna go to, the touristy places, it's easy. And then you can always hitchhike, because it is really safe to hitchhike here. So Georgia has city and nature, and it's super easy for you to get from one to the other. So for me, that is 100% win. The second thing that I think a lot of people might like is it has 4 seasons, because when you come from somewhere that has 4 seasons, you want 4 seasons. So it has spring, winter, summer, fall. So right now we're in fall and it's starting to cool down. However, the summers are very, very hot, and then the winters are cold. But in Tbilisi, I heard they're more mild winters. But if you want to go skiing and you want to go to the mountains, you can go skiing and you can go to the mountains. So you can take advantage of being in a country that has 4 seasons, especially if you love snow, or you want to go to the beach in the summer, there is the sea, or if you want to go hop over to Armenia or Azerbaijan for a completely different culture. It's sort of similar, I've heard, but it's like it all used to be part of the Soviet Union, but they're still their own countries and they have different unique things to offer. And you can get out of Tbilisi, there's an international airport. So Tbilisi has an international airport, which is amazing. Something else about being here in Tbilisi is that it is very affordable. Georgia, I think you could still probably live for $1,500, maybe less. You can live for less than $2,000. It depends on your lifestyle. I could probably live in Tbilisi for $1,000 to $1,500. It is a bit more expensive because since the war, inflation, as with anywhere, inflation has hit. So but yes, can you live for less than $1,000? Yes, you can if you don't live in the city and you live outside of the city. But I'm speaking more of if you're gonna live in Tbilisi, it's gonna be a bit more pricey than it used to be. But if you want to live in a smaller city like Kutaisi, or you want to even live even smaller like Marvili, or go to Mestia, or you want to live off the beaten path, you can totally do that as well and live for less than $1,000. If you want to have a little piece of land or live in like a little village, you can find that. You can even find properties to buy that are reasonable. And if you are a digital nomad, the great thing about Georgia is you can stay for a year, no questions asked. You don't have to worry about doing anything. And then if you want to set up a business, it's really easy to set up a business in Georgia as well, so then you can work on getting residency in this country. But you can stay for a year, hop over to Armenia, and come back for another year. So you can completely live here full time just by hopping the border once a year. Unlike other countries where you have to do it every 3 months, every 6 months, or every 2 months if you're in Thailand and you don't have a long-term visa. So it is really easy to stay and create a life here. Also, the food scene is Georgia has some really amazing food. It is a little bread and cheese heavy, but it is meant for like those winters. You know, when you come to a country that has a heavy winter, you're gonna have some heavier foods like the soups, the stews, the meat, the bread, but it's really good. And if you're in Tbilisi, you can find anything. There is Indian food, there's Asian food, there's sushi, and it has everything. It's an international city. And if it doesn't have everything that you want, you can go to a bordering country and have whatever you're craving, and the flights are really cheap. Also, if you live in Kutaisi, the airport, there's an international airport, and you can get in and out of Kutaisi, and you could go to Europe, go to Central Europe or Eastern Europe or Western Europe, wherever you want to go for like $30 or $40 round trip, maybe one way. But if you plan it ahead of time, you can book a cheap flight for less than $100 round trip, and you're in Europe. If you want pasta, go to Italy. If you want to go to get a tapas, go to Spain. So you can do that from here, from being here in Georgia. It's really, really an easy place to get in and out of, especially to go to the neighboring countries or to Asia, or even to Europe. Because it is considered, some people consider it Asia, some consider it Europe. I don't know what it is, Euro-Asia, I think. Like the nightlife scene, someone told me there's a great nightlife. I don't go out, so I can't comment on nightlife anywhere. But someone went out last night in my hostel, got home at like 4 a.m. said he had an amazing time. So there's a great nightlife here. Yeah, so also public transportation in the city everywhere. Transportation in the city is great. If you want to get out of the city, there is public transportation as well, but it can be a little bit difficult to get around to the more remote areas. But if you're going to live here, buy a car. Inside in Tbilisi, there is tons of parks, big parks, little parks. This park right now I just entered into is one of the bigger parks in the city, but there's also like an urban park that I saw the other day. But there's these huge grassy areas that are just amazing, as well as they're always near like a museum or something fun to go into. These are like all over the city. In Tbilisi as a city, if you do choose to live here, it is a beautiful, I think I mentioned this, it's a beautiful city, and it's so easy to get around. Wi-Fi in the city is great, and if you're going to go outside or live in the mountains, if you get a SIM card, I recommend GeoCell, and with that SIM card, amazing service. So as with most developing countries, Georgia does have things that, like, sometimes your electricity goes out, sometimes your water goes out, sometimes your internet goes out. But that also comes with living in a developing country, but here it's actually not as bad as some countries that I have been to. So the Wi-Fi actually works really good, especially in certain hostels, or if they have great Wi-Fi, or Airbnbs, they have amazing Wi-Fi. And also here, if you're working and you're a digital nomad, they have a lot of co-working spaces. So there's a lot of co-working spaces around town that you can go work at. You can join for the month. In my hostel, there's actually a co-working space right across the street. I will show you here, called The Hub, and it's like 425 gel per month, and then you can get your desk and you can have your complete office at the co-working space. And I walked past about 2 or 3 walking just on my little walk today. So if you're worried about Wi-Fi, just join a co-working space. Is Georgia safe? I actually feel safer in Georgia than I have in a lot of other countries that I have visited. I've had a couple incidents with guys harassing me, but overall, do I feel unsafe walking around the cities? Any city I've been to, walking around at night, going out places, going by myself, getting on buses, taking public transportation? No, I've not felt, I feel actually a lot safer here than I do sometimes in my home country, especially coming from Latin America. I don't have to look over my shoulder all the time. I'm not always worried about filming in public with a GoPro or with a camera or taking my phone out. I just have never felt unsafe living here. So I think that's a big draw as to why a lot of people come here, is because the safety. It is a safe country as a foreigner to live in. And I mean, as a foreigner, we're always going to pay a little bit more. Sometimes you might get taken advantage of, you might get overcharged for things, but that's what happens when you come from the Western world. They see that we have more money, and we do have more money than most of them, and that comes with the territory. Your price might be a little bit higher than a local. However, that's part of traveling, and that's just what you have to put up with sometimes, because overall it's still cheaper than your home country, and traveling, that's a cost of traveling. And another thing, if you really are into history and you're a history buff, oh my God, Georgia has so much history. I don't even fully understand it, because the history here goes back so far, and it was part of the Soviet Union at one time. So you have the Soviet Union history. Stalin is from here. He's from Gori, where I just was, and you just have all this, like, I mean, I don't even, it's like so deep, it's so dense, the history here, that you could go back history books, and still not even get to the root of it. But every city you're in has like monuments, and they have museums, and they have talking about their history. So if you're a history buff, absolutely you should come, especially the Semineti region. The history there is so interesting. It's so interesting to be up there and to learn how their history is so much different than the history here in Tbilisi or in Signahe or in Kutaisi. The regions are so much different. So each region you're going to learn something new, like the wine history that goes back 8,000 years, or the Semineti history, they have their own Span language. So every area has something super, super interesting. So Georgia overall has been a really great place, and I stayed here for 3 months. And I also love that it is very dog friendly, very cat friendly, and very kid friendly. There's kids running around everywhere, and it's not like in the US how it's almost like an inconvenience for you to have your kids out in public, but there's parks everywhere and kids just running around. It's like, I don't know, it reminds me of like the US before it became so like anti-kid everywhere, you know. And I mean, I don't have kids, but I don't think that we should be a society of punishing children for breathing. So yeah, there's lots of parks. People bring their kids to the restaurants. And yeah, they're just everywhere. They're running around, they're screaming, they're being kids. And no one's like yelling at them, telling them to be quiet, giving them a device. They're like being kids, running in nature. And I also love that everywhere has chickens, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. You can have your 100% self-sustainable house with just a garden, because they have a cow, they make cheese, they have milk, they have eggs, they have everything that they need in their house. They have grapes to make wine, they have wheat to make flour. Yeah, so it's like everyone is working toward self-sufficiency, or actually everyone is self-sufficient. They're not reliant on the stores to give them food. And everything is fresh. Oh my God, the food, the vegetables. You've seen my market tours. Hopefully the food, everything is fresh and amazing. So that's something I look for in a country, is how self-sufficient are they. So anyways, hopefully that helped you. And thank you so much. Talk to you in my next video. Bye.